What's up, gorgeous? I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to another episode of the Fierce Framework, where we talk about becoming fierce through messy action, baby steps, and cultivating your confidence. I'm your host, Mary Beth. I'm an ADHD kid with a dream to see more women living lives that we're excited about. I want to see us breaking out of the mold society tells us we're supposed to fit into and start living life more on our own terms, where we're in line with our values, we're pursuing our purpose, and we're making our dreams turn into realities. What's up, gorgeous? I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to another episode of the Fierce Framework. Today, I want to get into how important it is to celebrate your wins before moving on to the next goal. I think so often, we just go, 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 and we accomplish something. We accomplish something that we dreamed about, right? We hit a goal. We did something amazing. And so often we just like move on to the next thing. We barely acknowledge it. And we just like keep going, like focusing on how much there is left to do instead of looking at how far we've come. And so I want to encourage us to stop and take a second and make sure that we're celebrating those wins before we're just diving into the next thing. So, because I know especially, right, we've been talking so much about planning your year, planning the workshop. I've been building up to this like since last year. And now we're in January. Yes, the workshop's coming up. It is this weekend. I'm so excited about it. But like, I know we've been spending so much time talking about it and planning and goals and goal setting and how you're going to accomplish those goals and all that type of thing, like talking about the go, 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 right? And it's so powerful to make sure before we're diving into that, that we're taking a step back and we're celebrating how far we've come and everything that we've accomplished. I think there's so many reasons for this. First of all, like you deserve it, okay? We deserve to celebrate and acknowledge the work that we've put in, the goals that we've accomplished, like how far we've come. There is nothing wrong with taking a second, pat yourself on the back, to just be proud and be grateful for being able to accomplish the things that you've accomplished, right? It's so powerful. And it also works as a motivator to get us to keep going. We were talking last time on the podcast a little bit about how it can be really powerful to break your goals down into more like bite-sized steps so that you're able to work on them steadily and make like consistent progress instead of waiting for like a huge chunk of time to go knock out a huge goal, right? Um, but what can be frustrating about like steady, consistent progress is you don't always see a huge payoff, right? So when you do something huge and you like a marathon, right? I don't know why I keep using this example, but I guess it's just easy for my brain to grab. Um, yeah, of course, when you run the marathon, right? That's huge. That's a huge goal, and other people are celebrating you, and it's easy to see that, and have like external reminders and a like cause to stop and celebrate. And yes, I absolutely think you should. And I think there's milestones building up to that marathon, right? That are also worthy of celebrating. So whether it's you've been conditioning for, a month consistently, or you did a half marathon in your training, right? Or like whatever those landmarks, those mini goals are for you, take a second and stop and celebrate those as well because those that it's especially important for us to celebrate ourselves in those things because effort is not always something that other people are going to help you celebrate or that they're going to notice or celebrate for you, right? So maybe it's getting your degree, right? It's easy to expect people to celebrate with you once you get that degree. But if you're starting from the beginning, that's 4 years of classes and school and working and doing these things to work towards that degree. And so sometimes you got to stop and celebrate yourself every semester, right? Like you made it, you did it, you're sticking with it. And so it gives you the chance to, A, like you just deserve to celebrate your wins. Like that's important. Acknowledging and celebrating our progress and how far we've come and how much work we've put into something we care about is hugely important. B, it's important because you don't always have like an external milestone or like a reason, right, to celebrate. So sometimes we have to create our own. And such a powerful reminder to pause and like check in, right? If you just go, 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 that's how burnout happens, first of all. Okay. But we have to pause and check in with ourselves. You don't have to. I think it's powerful to pause and check in with yourself and be like, how is this going? Right? Is this is the time I'm setting aside for training, like, is this enough? Is it working for me? Do I need to move things around? Like, do I need childcare so I can train more? Or do I need, my partner to make more meals so I'm not as tired so I can put more energy into this? Or like, do I need to hire a house cleaner so I have more time to work? Like whatever it is, right? Like when you take the second to pause and check in, you get so much data, so much information. And having those little mini goals, right? Those milestones to remind you to pause and check in while you're celebrating. You celebrate, you pat yourself on the back, and you take a second to be like, is this working? Right? Do I want to keep doing this? Do I want to keep working towards this goal in this way? Are there additional supports I need? Are there additional resources I need? Are there things that I want to tweak? Right? Or maybe I thought I wanted to do a marathon and it turns out I want to do an Ironman, right? And you're like, oh, actually, it'd be so much more in alignment to add on that like biking and swimming, like whatever that is, right? Maybe if you're organizing the house, you're starting to realize like I want to decorate, like I want more vibes. Like once I get rid of this clutter, I have a vision. I want to, maybe repaint this room. Like when you're working towards a goal and you're making that change, I think it's perfectly normal. It might be the ADHD talking, right? But I think it's perfectly normal to have like additional ideas come in and be like, ooh, actually, like maybe I want to tweak this goal just a little bit. Maybe you wanted to make $100,000 in your business because like that's the number that keeps getting thrown around, right? So maybe that was your goal, but maybe that number didn't actually mean anything to you. But as you're working towards it and you're getting your finances in order, maybe you're starting to realize like, oh, I actually really want 110,000 because I've done the math and that is the amount of money I need to like live my dream life or to be able to hire the help that I want so I can move on to the next level in my business. Like as you're working towards your goals, you gain additional clarity. Action brings clarity, right? So when you're taking that action and you're taking those steps and you're getting closer to the goal, like you can naturally see more. You can see further in front of you as you're progressing because now you're closer. You know, when you're way back here at the very beginning of your journey, you can only see so far. But as you start walking down that path, you can start seeing further down the path because you're closer. And so I think it's totally normal for things to start coming up where you're like, ooh, let's adjust this a little bit. And so I love having those kind of like rests built in when you have like a mini goal or you have a milestone or whatever you want to call it. You have your big goal, the main event, right? And then you have the things leading up to that. And so when you're using those as reminders to stop and celebrate, pat yourself on the back, be excited about how much work you've put into this and that you're doing the thing, because that's super powerful too. It's like you're doing it. You probably thought about doing this, dreamed about doing it for a long time, right? And like never got around to like actually doing the action. But now you're doing it. And that is super important. Like that is the thing, is the action that you're taking. Like you are making your dreams become reality by taking action on them. That is hugely important. So just taking that second to realize like you're doing it and then having that kind of natural reflection of like, amazing, I accomplished this mini goal and I'm celebrating that and I'm super stoked. And now I'm moving on to the next mini goal, right? And that also helps like build our momentum. Because again, like you can't always see the progress when you're doing like slow and steady. And it's not always noticeable because you're in it too, right? You're the one who's working on organizing 15 minutes a day or whatever. And so one day, looking at that 15 minutes, you might not feel like you really made a dent in your organizing. But after a month, if you've been working on that 15 minutes a day and you take a second to step back and acknowledge, like, you have organized, your entire bedroom or whatever, however far you've gotten, right? You've done this because you don't always like get that natural acknowledgement in your day to day because you don't always like make a huge dent in things from the day to day, right? But after you've let some time pass and you've been consistent with that slow and steady, you can acknowledge the change and see how far you've come. Because progress is measured by how far you've come, not how far you have left to go. And I think we get so focused on how far we have still to go, how much there's left to do, and we forget to look and see how far we've come and the progress that we've made. So I think taking a minute to celebrate how far you've gone, your commitment to yourself, right? Like you are doing the thing, that is so powerful and that is so important. And so I want to encourage you to take that moment to celebrate. Um, and then also like kind of separating those mini goals. You're like accomplishing and building up and gaining momentum as you go. Whereas when we don't like stop and acknowledge how far we've come and we celebrate those wins, usually what ends up happening then is we feel like the goalpost is just moving, right? So you have the goal of, whatever it is, like organizing your house, and you got a room done. That's progress. That's amazing. But if you don't stop and like celebrate that and you're like, yeah, you still have the whole rest of the house to go, you've put in all this work. But if you're not careful, you can kind of like write it off in your mind and feel like it's nothing because you haven't accomplished your one big goal. And we have to be really careful with that because we can get so discouraged when we tell ourselves it's not enough, barely, like it doesn't even count. I've hardly done it. It's just one room and I have the whole house to organize. Is that going to motivate you to keep going? Or is that going to discourage you and like shut you down? And then lo and behold, you're never going to get to the rest of the house because you're so like burnt out. But it's crazy how much like little pep in our step and encouragement, a little celebration and acknowledgement can be. Because it's all in how you look at it, right? You can choose to look at that room and be like, oh my gosh, I've only done one room. I still have the rest of the house to do. This is gonna take me forever. I'm never gonna get the whole thing done. No, 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 no. And like not allowing yourself to feel accomplished until you've done the whole thing. Or you can look at that one room and be like, dude, I've been consistently working on this, whatever, 15 minutes a day, right? For a week, for a month, however, and I've accomplished doing this room. I've organized this room. It's working. I'm doing it. And so it's the same result. The one room is organized, and you get to look at that and decide whether that is an indicator of your failure and how slow you're going and the fact that you're never going to get your whole house done, or you can look at that as an indicator of how amazing you are and how much work you're putting into this and the progress that you've made. And that is a milestone that you've accomplished. You've got one room down, you're doing this. You can do the next room and then you'll accomplish that and then you'll keep going until all the rooms are done. And how amazing is that going to be? And that's why celebrating is so important because it's literally a mind game, right? And I know for me, for the longest time, I was like, I don't need that. I don't need these like little psychological tricks. Like, I'm not so, uh, like shallow that I need a little pep talk every time I do something. Okay, whatever. I don't know why I was such a hater, but I was like, why not? Why not have a little party, have a little pat on the back? Like, you don't have to go all out and throw a huge party every time you accomplish a baby step. But even stopping and just acknowledging and be like, yeah, girl, you're doing it. You're on the right track. Cheers with your sparkling water. Like, yay, let's keep going. It can just be that. You can put a star on your calendar. Like, I don't care. But it doesn't matter what it looks like, as long as it matters that you're stopping and being intentional about acknowledging how far you've come. Because that is literally progress, is how far you've come. It doesn't matter how far you have to go, what all there is left to do. I mean, that matters in like measuring your goals, right? But when you're measuring progress, that's not what you're measuring. Progress is literally measured by how far you've come. So I want to encourage you, like it does matter. It is important to stop periodically and take a look back at how far you've come and acknowledge that you're making progress and you are doing the things. You are literally turning your dreams into reality through your actions, and that freaking matters. Okay. I'm looking at my notes here just to make sure I'm kind of covering all the things because I got really passionate there because it's important to me. So we talked about taking a moment to celebrate. We talked about how pausing is powerful. You're celebrating, you're reflecting, and then you can use that data where to go to inform like where you're going next. So let's come back to bullet point two. Okay. So one of the things when we're talking about progress, right? One of the things that can be frustrating and that can be a reason we like talk ourselves out of celebrating how far we've come is when you haven't hit a goal yet, or maybe you do, it's taking longer than you realized, or maybe you got off track for a while, right? Or maybe you did organize a room and now the room's disorganized again. So you like moved on to the next room, but now room number one is like getting out of control and you're like, and it feels defeating, right? And like, so when something goes wrong, that's part of life. That's part of it. That's going to happen. Okay. And it's kind of like what we were talking about with the one room, right? You can choose to look at that as an accomplishment or you can choose to look at that as a failure. And honestly, that applies to so much of our lives. And it's both, right? So let's stick with the room as an example. If you have a whole house to organize and you've done one room, it's true that you've only done one room and you still have the whole rest of the house. It's also true that you've done one room and you've made that accomplishment and you've done that work and you did that. So those are both true. And so you get to decide which one you're going to focus on and what you're going to make it mean in your mind, right? And so it's not I think I'm just going to go with that train of thought, right? Like they're both true. And so think about what is going to be the most beneficial to you. Where putting your focus, where are you going to put your focus that's most likely to help you keep going and to accomplish the bigger goal, right? And if it is a situation where it's like maybe that room's getting messy again, or maybe it took you a year to do one room and you're like, I really need to like make this happen faster, then use that as feedback and get curious about that. I'm like, okay, so then what do I need? Right? Okay, if I organize this room and now it's a disaster again, what do I need to keep the room organized? Because you did get it organized. You did that, right? Or maybe it's like taking forever because maybe you haven't finished the room and it just keeps going back and it keeps getting disorganized or cluttered or whatever you're trying to fix about it, right? While you're doing the work and you're like, it's like bailing water out of a sinking boat, right? You're like, more is coming in faster than I can get it out. And so that's an opportunity to take a step back and be like, okay, so what is happening then? What do I need? Do I need to get my kids on board? Do I need to get my spouse on board? Are we buying a ton of stuff? And so literally like more clutter is coming in faster than I can clean it out. Like maybe we can look at our consumption. Like use that pause to figure out like what's going on here and what else do we need? Because the answer is most likely the answer is not that you just suck and that you're not good enough and that you should do better. I thought that was the answer for a long time. Turns out it's rarely ever the correct. That's like rarely ever the answer, okay? It's usually I needed more support or I needed more resources. And resources can be a lot of different things, right? That can be support and like someone else helping, or that can be a resource of additional knowledge, right? Learning that I had ADHD and how that impacts like every part of my life was a game changer, right? Because for the longest time, I was like, oh, just do better, be better. And now it's like, oh, because you have ADHD, this, that, and the other, right? So instead of just expecting myself to remember everything, I can use the resource of a calendar reminder and put everything in my calendar so I have those reminders. So then I have that support. right? Instead of just expecting myself to all of a sudden change and be a different person who remembers things, I can bring a support in and use a tool so that I don't have to remember, but I have like a trigger, right? I have those reminders for me. So it's things like that, like when and that like that it kind of goes hand in hand, right? Sorry, I feel like I'm being a little disorganized here, so bear with me. But it goes hand in hand with the celebrating because when you're pausing to celebrate, you're pausing, and the pause is powerful. Like I want to combine that with the point. Like yes, celebrating is important, and taking that second though, like taking that second to pause, to celebrate, absolutely. And then while you're doing that, right? You're paused, you're kind of assessing the situation. When you're looking at your progress and how far you've come, you can also use that moment to ask those questions of like, how is this going? And use that time to reflect and be like, do I need additional support? Are we on track? Like, how is this working out? Am I doing okay, right? Like, am I able to be the kind of person that I want to be while I'm tackling this goal, right? Like, is if you're organizing that room, right, and the kids are constantly coming in and disorganizing it and undoing all your hard work, like how is that going? Like, are you the mom you want to be while you're accomplishing this goal, or is there something else you need, right? Does there need to be a conversation with the kids like, hey, this space is changing? Does there need to be some forgiveness? Like, I don't know, or maybe there needs to be an extra pair of hands so the kids aren't in there while you're in there. Like, but when we're taking these moments to reflect and like ask and observe and kind of process that data, that is so powerful because then that's where you're going to identify those things of like, oh, in order for this to go better, I actually need XYZ, you know? Or maybe I do need some shelves, right? To like literally, maybe I can't declutter enough and like get rid of enough stuff to where like I'm kind of satisfied with this space. Maybe I need more storage space or a smarter storage situation, like whatever that is, right? But if you never slow down enough to ask those questions, then you don't get the answers to those questions and you just keep going, 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 right? So pausing is so powerful. It's important to celebrate, but then also to reflect and kind of process that data and see how is this going? Okay. And I'm sure you're doing so great. Okay. Just like give yourself some credit. One of the things I do want to piggyback on too is I feel like a common problem is that we don't know like how big to make our goals. Um, period. Okay. And maybe it's just me. Okay. But I think it's a common thing to be like unsure of how big to make a goal. So I think it's easy. This is so my perspective, right? But I think it's easy to set like an end goal, right? Like, if you want to live abroad, you want to live abroad, and that's like boom, okay. But what can be harder is how do I get there? Or is that a next year goal? Is that a 5 year goal? Is that a 10-year goal? Like, what are we doing, right? Or if we're organizing the house, right? Um, my ADHD butt is like, yeah, that's gonna take one weekend. And then everything will be organized and perfect and clean and da 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 da. Is it? Is it gonna take one weekend? Or is it going to take maybe a month or two of 15-minute chunks every day? Or maybe it's gonna take a couple weekends, right? But I think that we have such a hard time of like realizing how big to make a goal in a defined time frame, especially with us ADHDers because we're kind of time blind and we don't really know how time works and what that means and how long things take. And that is totally okay. But one of the things that's powerful and helpful with the pausing is then you can see when you're pausing periodically to look back and acknowledge your progress, then you can also like notice how much progress you made in what period of time. Okay, so if I was able to organize one room in a month, now I have a better idea to gauge for the rest of the house, right? So it's roughly a month per room or a week per room, like whatever it is. I don't know, I'm pulling numbers out of thin air, right? Um, so for example, like I was really interested in doing the artist's way, like going through her program. It's a book, The Artist's Way, and you do it like a program, and it's like a 12-week program. Um, and then there's one exercise there that is morning pages where the author is like the example, the exercise is to write 3 pages front and back longhand, like literally write it out every day. And that's why I never did that program. Literally, it felt like it was taking so long to get through the writing that I like didn't have time for anything else. And this was years ago. Um, but then like the seed has come up again where I'm like, I think I might want to like try that. And so I was trying to be a little more strategic this time and I'm like asked myself, okay, what actually is going into this? Like how much time do I need? Because in the past it felt like it was taking all day and it felt like that was like all I was doing. And I was like, I know it doesn't take all day to write 3 pages, but how long does it take? And so this sounds like super basic, but I set a timer and I timed myself for how long it takes, and it's embarrassing how long it takes, so I'm not gonna tell you, but now I know. And I'm like, all right, so now I have an idea of how much time I need for those morning pages. And so it's like, okay, is this something I can do during the work week? Is this the weekend thing? Whatever, what, blah, blah, blah. Because then there's also other things like that's one little piece of the program. I haven't even read the whole book, so I don't even know what else I haven't even gotten to yet, right? But it's like, so I know I need that time and additional time to read the book and then do the other exercises there. But at least now I have that measurement and I know how long it takes, or I have an idea, right? It's not going to be the same exact amount of time, because you know your writing speeds are going to vary from day to day, whatever. But doing it and then looking back and seeing like, okay, I was able to do XYZ in X amount of time. That is such powerful data to inform our next leg of the journey or our next goal, right? Like if you want to make $100,000 in your business, but you've never made a dollar, like how do you get there, right? But if you've made $80,000, then yeah, you can much more easily conceptualize making 100,000 because it's an incremental in increase. Like it's an incremental adjustment to the bigger goal. And so it's like pausing and looking back and in like measuring, right? Like how far you've come in what period of time, what went into that, right? Because our capacity changes, like all kinds of things. For example, like if you're doing things by quarters during the summer months, if you have kids and your kids are home, you might not be able to get as much done towards your goal as you were able to in the prior 3 months while the kids were in school because things fluctuate and things vary, right? But if you've done it the year before, then you can kind of look back and see like, okay, what was I able to do last summer? And that can inform. So I think like the pause is just it's super powerful anyway. But there are so many additional things that we can use it for. When you're stopping to celebrate, yes, yes, celebrate yourself. You're doing so great. And use that pause while you're there, right? Take advantage and kind of gather some data, process some things, and then use that to inform the next leg of your journey to see like, okay, how far was I able to come? Like, what was I able to do? Okay, so now I have a pretty good idea of what this looks like. Maybe even like how much free time I have in my day, right? And then use that to inform your next step. This was really powerful for me with like capacity, right? Because I was setting goals based on like hours in the day because I've like simplified my life so much and I took out so many obligations and so many time sucks that were just like taking so much of my time. And then I was like, okay, I have free time. Like I have hours in a day that like I can be working on my business. I can be working on my goals, right? And like I had an idea that like I was gonna pack all those days full of like productivity. And then I realized the hard way, I was like, okay, I have hours, but I don't have energy. Right? Like after a full day in corporate America, I'm like, there's only so much additional work that I have capacity to do. It's like I didn't even know, I just kind of like assumed since I had time, I would have capacity and boom. But through my experience and like trying to do those things, I realized like this isn't working. And it's not the fact time is not the issue. Energy and capacity is the issue. So then that is such useful information. And now I've been able to focus on that and be like, okay, is there a way I can increase my energy? What can I do to like re-energize so that then I am able to jump back into being productive? And then, that re-energizing, recharging, like that takes time, and that's okay. But I can't just I realize now I can't just assume that all my hours in the day are going to be productive. And I do quotes because rest is also productive. And I hadn't thought of that before, right? So it's like I was thinking like output. I can output and produce at all hours of the day. And then once I tried that, right? And then you pause and you look back, you're like, that's not the life I want to live. So then I'm able to like use that to inform my future and start asking those questions like, okay, so then how can I pour back into myself and re-energize so that I'm able to kind of focus on the things that I want to focus on after my corporate job? Like, how can I make that happen? So, pause, celebrate yourself, reflect, use that data to inform your next step, your next goal, right? But all of that comes back into taking the time to pause periodically when you're working towards your goals and look at your progress and look at how far you've come. Pat yourself on the back, process the data, all that good stuff. You were doing so great. I am so proud of you, and I would love to hear about what you're doing, if this is working for you, what you're trying, if you have other ideas, all that good stuff. So you can always reach out to me on social media at the Fierce Framework or leave a comment here, whatever works for you. I love hearing from you. I will see you so soon, and until then, keep becoming fierce.